Hello students. Okay, let's read this question. What is the equation of the line graph below? Okay, this is not a lot of information in the question, pretty straightforward with the circle, underline, and box. Elaborate. Okay, so I'm gonna define and remember my steps. If I need to go from a graph or table to an equation, I'm gonna follow the same steps. Step 1, I'm gonna write a table to check the pattern on the x-axis and on the y-axis, and then I'm just gonna confirm those steps with my graph. So I can read some values from the table. Let's say x and y, and I'm using blue for the values on the x-axis, and I'm using orange for the values on the y-axis. Okay, so let's do it. And I always like to go first on the positive side because then it's really easy to check the pattern on the positive side. The numbers are more friendly. So I'm going to check when x equals 0 first. I'm going to say, okay, so when x equals 0, what seems to be the value of y? I go from 0 up till I touch the line, and it's right here. And the value is a 6. See that, guys? Okay, now this number in between 0 and the 2, that's the 1. See that, guys, right here? If I go up, I cannot really tell because looks it's more than 6, but I'm not really sure if it's 6.3, 6.35, 6.4. So instead, I'm going to go to the next integer, to the next number, and see if with the number 2, I find a more precise look on the graph. And this one looks better. It's exactly on the corner of this little square on the plane. And what number is here, guys, between 6 and 8? Well, that should be a 7, right? Awesome. So when x equals 2, we have the y equals a 7. Now let's check for 3. When we have 3, again, I cannot really tell, look, because this value I know is more than 7, but I can really tell if it's 7.4, 7.5. So I'm going to go to the next one. I'm going to go to x4. I go up, and when x equals 4, oh, I like this one. It's exactly on the corner. I go towards the left to touch the y axis, which is the orange line, and I see that when x equals 4, the y equals 8. Great, guys. And I know the 5 is not working, so I go to 6. 6 goes towards the left to see on the y-axis what number is that, and that's going to be a 9. So when x equals 6, y equals 9. And we have 4 data points. That's plenty. Okay, great. So now we can do it visually from the graph, or we can do it on the table. So let's do it on the table. We already got started. So from 0 to 2, guys, what is the difference? 2 units. From 2 to 4, what is the difference? 2 units. And from 4 to 6, what's the difference? It was always 2 positive units. So the change on the x-axis is positive 2. Now I'm going to check the change on the y-axis. From 6 to 7, the difference is positive 1. From 7 to 8, the difference is positive 1. And from 8 to 9, the difference is positive 1 all the time. Now also visually you can see, how is this graph increasing, guys? Is this graph going up or is this graph going down? No, it's going up, absolutely. So the value that we're looking for, that is called the slope or rate of change, or delta y over delta x, these three things is the same. It's gonna be positive because we can see that the values are increasing. The line looks like it's going up. Great. So this value of m for sure is gonna be positive because the line is going up. So I know it's gonna be positive. Now, how do we find it? How do we find this value? By dividing the changes on the y over the changes on the x. This one was an x. So this is what we're gonna do. Okay, so from the table, what is the value of the delta y? It's a 1. You see that, guys? It's right here. And the delta x, the change on the x's, is a 2. So I'm gonna say that the slope is gonna be just 1/2. That's the value of Vm. And can we check that visually on the graph? Of course. What we have to do is to pick 2 points that we can read very well. And so, for example, I can choose this point when x equals 6, y equals 9. I can use that one. And another point that I can check is when x equals 2, for example. I know that y equals 7. Okay, so now we're gonna check the change on the y-axis. So I'm going from 9 to 7, right here. So from 9 to 7, the change is, since I'm going down, I'm gonna say negative. And what's the difference to go from 9 to 7? It's negative 2. You see, guys? Awesome. Now we're gonna check on the x-axis, which is the side-to-side line, the horizontal line, like this one in this section, but now we're gonna do it from this point to this point. So to go from here, now I'm gonna go towards the left. So basically, I went from 6 to 2. How many units are there between 6 and 2? And it's not 2, guys, because you see in between we have little numbers. So from 6 to 5, that's 1. From 5 to 4, that's 2. From 4 to 3, that's 3. And from 3 to 2, that's 4 units. So the delta x, the change on the x, is negative 4. Negative because I'm going towards the left. Now remember, the value of the m is the delta y over the delta x, or the change on the y over the change on the x. And also some teachers call this rise over run, which is totally right. So this is the delta y is negative 2 over negative 4. And the negative 2 we got it from the orange, and the negative 4 we got it from the blue. Okay, so negative divided by a negative is gonna be positive, and 2 divided by 4 is gonna be 1/2. So you see how we get the same value here and here? When you're solving the questions, you don't have to do the 2 ways. You can do the one that works better for you, either by reading from the graph or by reading it from the table. That was our step 1. Our step 2, or step 1 was finding the change on the x and the y. Step 2 was finding the slope, remember, guys? And the slope in this case is positive 1/2. Step 3 is really easy. We're gonna use the equation of the line that is y equals mx plus b. This is the general equation for any line. We always use this equation, guys. Then we always keep the y. We bring down the equal. This value of m, we have to plug in what we found on step 2, and we figured it was 1/2. I'm gonna put it in green because I got it here in green. Then that's gonna multiply x. I can put a dot in between, or I can just put the x right there, plus the b. And remember, we said for b is where this line crosses with this, or the green line, where the green line crosses with the y axis, which is the orange line in this case, and it's right here, and I put it in pink. And then also I'm gonna highlight that in the table. So this that I highlighted in the graph is exactly the same thing I did on my tables, the 0, 6. So what's the value of the b? The positive 6 plus the 6. Do you find the answer in the answer choices? Yes, it is choice C. Y equals 1/2, which is here, of x plus the 6. Awesome, guys. Very quickly, just remember. Step 1, you can make a table. Find the change on x and change on y. Step 2, find the slope by dividing the change of y over the change on the x's right here. Step 3, use this equation always for a line, y equal mx plus b, and do substitutions of the values that you have. Awesome job, guys. Thank you.